Well, let me tell you something very interesting. We've got a new family member to the Swim Stim range. Now, this is the margin mix, and it's going to be on the shelves within the next couple of weeks. We've been developing this for the past 6 months, and let me tell you, it's absolutely phenomenal. Why is it so good in comparison to the rest of its family members? Well, for a start, the larger particles, which blends perfectly when you're margin fishing. You want a heavy, dense mix, and this is exactly what you're going to get with this. Plus, it's got extra vitamins and minerals within the ground bait that are stimulants and really do help them fish move over your feed quicker and kind of like holds them in your peg for a longer period of time. But more importantly, because of the density of the mix, when you mix it up, it stays where you feed it, and that's really important when you're margin fishing. Today we're at Larford Lakes. We're going to be targeting some big fish down the margin, so I want my mix to create a focal point down the edge, and that's exactly what you're going to get with this mix. As with all ground baits, you can mix it up how you want it to mix, but when you over wet this mix, it becomes a really dense mixer, very similar to the marine halibut, but it's got larger particles. And as I've said, in the summertime, when we're coming into the summertime soon, this is definitely the mix to give it a go on your local commercial fisheries where you're going to be targeting those big margin fish. So let me quickly show you how to mix it up. Very simple to the rest of the ground baits we sell. And I tell you what, it smells absolutely beautiful. Quite a fishy, meaty mix as well. So I won't need a massive amount today. And as you can see, it's a lovely golden brown. Now, I'm a big believer. That smells beautiful. You can see also how big the particles are within the mix. We'll do a little bit of a close-up to show you in a little bit more detail how big the particles are. But I'm a big believer in darkening my mix off. So I'm not just going to use this on its own. I'm going to use it with a little bit of amino black, Swim Stim amino black. It's not always to do with the flavour, it's to do with the shade. And we're still in the spring, the water's still quite clear. We've got a lovely golden brown mix that in the summertime would be perfect on its own, but at this time of the year, I just want to darken it off a little bit. And I'm also going to add my favourite green Swim Stim. Why? Because I'm confident with it, and that's a big thing when it comes to ground baits. So literally all I'm going to do is add maybe 1/4 of a pint of black and 1/4 of a pint of green. I don't think the green's a necessity, but the black definitely is. All right, got a bit of interruption here. Now, immediately, just before I've added the water, look how that's changed the actual shade of the ground bait. To me, that's a massive confidence booster in my head. Again, with all ground baits, I'm a big believer in over-wetting the mix at the start. Get to your peg. The first thing you do, if you're going to use ground bait and mix it up, do it as soon as you get to your peg. So by the time everything's ready, you're all set up, your mix is perfect and it retains that same texture throughout the whole of the match. So all I'm going to do is add a decent amount of water. If you're unsure of how much water to add, always add a little bit at a time, but I'll show you the consistency, what you want to look for once you've added that water. But I've done it that many times, I have a really good idea of what texture it should be. And as I say, I want it claggy. Now initially when you add the water, you think, oh, I've put too much water with it. If it's like that, that's perfect, because by the time it's rested for 10 minutes, it'll be absolutely perfect. And the key thing to remember is, because this is a ground bait with larger particles, you've got to give those larger particles that time for the moisture to get into those particles, so it becomes what we call an inert mix. So as you can see now, it's on the verge of clumping up to the point where I can squeeze that, but as I break it down, it's all clumpy. That's what I want. So what we're going to do, we're going to come back to this in 10 minutes time, riddle it, and I'll show you the finished mix. Right, riddling time. We've all seen it before, but I cannot stress how important it is. Is it about getting rid of the lumps? To me personally, no. It's about adding air to the mix, mixing all those particles up, but making the mix more fluffy. You'll be amazed what a mix does just by riddling it. The fluffier, if I want a mix extra fluffy, then I may riddle it 3 or 4 times. really get that air into it, and it completely transforms the texture of the mix. This is really important, let's say when you're doing one-hand squeezes when you want to feed, if you're allowed, little nuggets of ground bait down the edge where you just want to pinch it with your fingers. It allows you to work the ground bait how you want it to work. Without riddling it, you don't get that performance from it. So, as you can see now, I've left it 10 minutes and it's really easy to push through, but I know for a fact that all these particles have absorbed that extra moisture. And as long as I keep it airtight as regards to a lid on this ground bait throughout the whole 5-hour match, it will retain the same texture. As always, I'm a big believer in carrying with me and having on my side tray and atomising. If I just want to fine tune the mix or put some ground bait into a separate container to add some extra water to make a really sloppy mix, for example, if I want to create a cloud, then that allows me to manage the ground bait accordingly. So this is the finished mix. As you can see, because of the riddling, how fluffy that is. Now, this is the telltale. So form it into a ball like that, break it down, and look at that, back to its original form. And you can see all the little flecks of maize in it as well. That's a massive attractor, especially on commercials and on your local bream waters as well. I think this is going to be an absolute booming success on all kinds of waters. And the smell of it is absolutely beautiful. I could eat it. Not as good as a bacon sandwich, but it's all right. So there you have it, the new Swim Stim margin mix.